Steeler Nation, we are back for another great week of shows on the one and only The Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. Preseason is in full effect. One more game, and it will be week one before you know it. And that Steelers running game got to get going. A lot to talk about. We'll save that for our guests. But first, Mike, why don't you tell the fine people who we're teaming up with again this football season how they can put some money in their wallet?
Yeah, man, it's time to go ahead and do that. You know, we got beer, we got chicken wings, all kind of good things coming up on Sunday afternoons when you're watching the game, and DraftKings is the place to be able to fund that. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets, Saturdays and Sundays just got way more fun. College football is back. You think you know the game? Put your college football knowledge to the test with DraftKings, NFL as well. Sportsbook, and turn your picks into big payouts, from live betting during the game to rivalry week odds, boosts, and so much more. DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to stay in the action, from kickoff to the final whistle, whether you're betting on your go-to team like the Steelers or making moves mid-game as the momentum shifts. Saturdays and Sundays are yours to own with DraftKings Sportsbook. Do us a favor, Jordan, and everybody else there watching. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code SICKSPORTS, SICK Sports. For new customers, you get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. That's not much. You can handle that. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
There you have it. And I might say this. I know we're no experts over here, so our betting advice, we are going to be every week giving our picks of the week, throw some college in there as well as NFL, obviously. But you might want to do the opposite. But I betting-wise, I had a pretty decent year last year. Didn't get too, when the money starts like piling up, you get, $100 here, $50 here. It's better just take your money and go get a nice steak and watch some Steeler football. That's more my speed.
I think we're going to have a big time here, and we're going to track it. So, folks out there, pay close attention to our percentages. It's going to be a good year, and not just sports books coming up, but of course fantasy football drafts. And so, important to get into our next guest. We're excited to chat with him. Jimmy, go ahead and run it.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Aaron Smith shields. Flacco, Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
All right, he is the creator of fantasy football in 60 seconds, which would be a huge saving grace for me because I have 6 teams. So reduce it from 6 hours to 60 seconds would be absolutely clutch. You could find that at ffin60.com. Also a contributor, established the run in terms of best ball. We're excited to welcome on Justin Herzig. Justin, what is up, man?
Gentlemen, how's it going? No, glad to be here. And hey, one of my favorite bets this year, I've got the under 800.5 yards on Kaleb Johnson. Nothing against Kaleb personally, but I think it's going to be a little slower start for him as you see some Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell.
That honestly was my first question. And because
nice
Kaleb has been definitely under the microscope these first couple weeks in the preseason. There's a lot of overreaction and underreaction, right, in these first few weeks. But for what it's worth, he hasn't looked terrific. And, a lot of Steelers fans that I think are, maybe souring a bit more than they had. So why are you a little bit down on him from a best ball and fantasy perspective, and assuming that you would take Jaylen Warren higher than him?
Yeah, so first off, third round running backs, the hit rate there is only about like a 20% hit rate in the first year. Now, a lot of those actually in that second year when they get an entire season in the offseason to kind of get more embedded in the offense have success. But that first year, it's difficult. And so when we're thinking about it from like a fantasy football angle, best ball, whatever you're looking at, obviously you want that late season production. I still think he can provide that, but you definitely didn't get the momentum or that kind of early traction that you're looking for. And when we think about the actual situation, first of all, you've got the Arthur Smith. Like even Arthur Smith, when he had Bijan Robinson, you got Tyler Algier still playing a ton. So it's not like he's going to just, hey, we invest third round capital. Let's get the running back. Let's get the fastest. He probably is the best pure rusher on the team, but there's a lot more to being a running back in the NFL than just rushing. And when you have Aaron Rodgers at the helm, you need to protect him. And it seems like the protection is kind of the thing that's probably keeping him back. And Kenneth Gainwell, Jalen Warren, like those guys are veterans. Jalen Warren's one of like the top pass blockers in the league for a running back. So yeah, I mean, it's nothing against like Jalen Warren. I mean, nothing against like Kaleb Johnson personally. And I do think he has talent, but it's just going to take probably a longer kind of ramp up period here.
So you think the position is kind of in a void, at least in fantasy terms, not so much on-field Steelers terms?
Yeah, I mean, I like Jalen Warren a lot. I think where he's being drafted is in that kind of 9th round area. And I mean, hey, you guys as Steelers fans know, and we've seen it with the Najee, for whatever reason, we just don't expect that Jalen's going to be like a workhorse back. And like, you know, in his first couple seasons on a per touch basis, his efficiency was off the charts. Like really liked him. And it was always just like, well, what if he gets that chance? What if he gets that chance? And never did. And so I think that like there are some backs where I'll use Tony Pollard as an example, where Tony Pollard's first couple years in the league with the Cowboys, he was behind Zeke, is always like, give him that chance, give him that chance. His efficiency, his per touch rates are great. He eventually got it and you saw great things. But there are some backs that coaches just don't trust in a 250, 300 touch volume workload. And I think that's how the Steelers kind of see Jalen Warren. They like where he is at that kind of 200 area. They like to have the complementary bruiser. That's why they bring in Kaleb Johnson, but you still need to be able to trust him. And I think as it is now, like, no, Kenneth Gainwell is not going to get you the big plays that Kaleb Johnson can get you, but he's also probably not going to get you those -3, -4. He's not going to get you as many sacks. And that's at least how the team sees it right now. It's going to take time.
I want to ask you about another unproven guy who essentially is in his de facto rookie year, wide receiver who Steelers fans are hoping takes a big leap, and that's Roman Wilson. How much, would you invest in him on any of your rosters, and what do you think of his upside?
Yeah, so I mean, like going into last year, got some decent draft capital, had some decent kind of excitement going into training camp. And then that injury was just devastating to the point of like never really got a chance to see. So even I think like he started being healthy near the end of the season, but like it's so important for rookies to get that, I don't know, like even the preseason time just to get the reps, just to get the connection, just to get the rapport, and particularly wide receivers where it's such a timing aspect. Now you get Aaron Rodgers in. First off, de facto rookie, you kind of say it. Rodgers does not have a great track record with rookie wide receivers because that one time you miss the route, you run the wrong route, you end up getting an interception for Rodgers in his stat column. Like he's telling you get off the field. Roman Wilson, I mean, again, I think the talent is there. I think there's been some buzz. I think he's fine, probably a fine flyer. It doesn't sound like he's going to start in like 2 wide receiver sets. It's probably going to be Calvin Austin out there. And to be honest, I'm a little more excited in the Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith. Like, I think we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end, even 3 tight end sets with Darnell out there. And so obviously DK is going to eat, but I think after him, I'd probably bet that Jonnu and Freiermuth like are the next leaders in receptions ahead of the Calvin Austin and the Roman Wilson.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I think that like don't pay too much attention because there's going to be a lot of formation. When it's got Jonnu Smith, it's like, oh, another tight end, and I'm like, I don't think that pay attention to that too much. What's your thoughts generally, not just from a fantasy aspect of the Steelers in general, and obviously touch a little bit on Aaron Rodgers? How much gas do you think he still has left in the tank as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Steelers that we've come to know the past probably 5, 6, 7 years of being, hey, that hard-hitting defensive first, like manage the offense. You're not going to go for the kind of huge plays. You're not going to go for the riskier. I think at this point in Rodgers' career, like, it's not a bad fit. I mean, you obviously compare like to the Justin Fields and what the Jets experiment is going to be going on right now. Like, we know Justin Fields' limitations, but you also kind of hope that you have that explosiveness and that upside. With the Rodgers aspect, I mean, he may as well just be, sitting in a wheelchair back there. Like, he's not moving around in the pocket. And obviously that's the biggest downside of the current Rodgers game versus what we've known before. But he still has that kind of ability to run an offense. And I think that's what the Steelers are looking for is, can you just manage it? Can you win us those 17-14 games? Rodgers, better than any other quarterback, knows how to throw the ball away, avoids those interceptions. But when you're also getting the pressure, as long as this offensive line can kind of stay healthy, I know that's always been a trouble in the past. I think like it definitely is a playoff competitor. Got to take into account though, hard division. Ignore the Browns. But yeah, Ravens and Bengals, like, you've got an uphill battle to.
That was my next question. So
yeah.
Talk about the pecking order. Obviously, I think everyone, that we've had on the podcast recently, and me and Mike both agree that, the Baltimore Ravens are, the short pick for the AFC North. The AFC in general is just a juggernaut at this point. But just talk about where you can realistically see the Steelers. I know, the season hasn't started yet, but just, an educated guess, I guess you can say.
Yeah, man, I think you're going for that 6 and 7 seed. I believe that like your Ravens are, if not the class, definitely the class of this division, but I think one of the top teams in football. I think Lamar is just fantastic. I probably will put him like my top QB in the league. Him, Mahomes, but they have the full complete team to go with that defense as well. And I think that's where the Bengals, we know, yes, there's the offensive line issues, but also the reason why Burrow was able to put up so much stats, why Jamar Chase had the triple crown, is because the defense is putting them in shootouts. And from a fantasy angle, that's amazing. But from a pure, actual NFL, I think that's where there's an opportunity similar to what we saw last year for the Steelers to kind of squeak by. But yeah, I mean, I think as Vegas agrees, Ravens, heavy favorite. Beyond that, you have some strong teams in the league, but it's kind of like that 7 wild card spot. Like, you can still kind of eke in with that 9 and 8, maybe, 10 and 7. So I think that's where the Steelers are kind of looking, play some hard-nosed football. They're not going to lose the games, but they need to kind of squeak out those close ones. They're not going to the big losses, but if they can squeak out the close ones, that's what they're hoping for.
We know Tomlin won't have a losing season, so I think that guess is pretty spot on. Before we get you out of here, I throw it back to Mike for a couple more. Just talk about this defense. Obviously, addition of draft pick Derek Harmon. You have Darius Slay coming over from the Eagles, and Jalen Ramsey as well. Talk about that veteran depth there. Obviously, Alex Highsmith, T.J. Watt, and hopefully Cam Hayward as well. But just kind of talk about where you see this defense. I know it's one of the highest paid in the NFL, if not still, where you could see them. Obviously, this is Blitzburg and defense wins championships, but how much do you think that can complement this offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think the secondary is just so important in today's football, especially when you're going in a division against Lamar and Joe Burrow. So it makes sense that they've been invested there. Because I think if you look in the past with the Steelers, it used to be more like, hey, the inside linebackers, defensive line, like that's where they're going to win. I think now there's been that acceptance of, if you want to win in today's game, not only in your division, but then you're also competing against Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, you need that secondary. And so bringing in these veterans, again, I think the depth's lacking for every team in the NFL, but particularly I feel like that's where the biggest risk is for the Steelers, because for the Steelers to be competitive, they really need to just kind of manage and maintain those kind of games through the defense. And so if you're getting blown out over the top, like there's just, these are the QBs that you're playing against that are going to destroy you. But I do think the Steelers have set themselves up to be able to actually, maintain, stay in those games, have the strong secondary, and some big moves in the offseason set you there. So I think it's promising. And without a doubt, if it's a successful season, it's because the defense stays healthy and they perform to what we've seen of their veteran ability.
We're hanging out with Justin Herzig here on the Sick Podcast, Steelers Crazy, brought to you by DraftKings. Want to get back into fantasy and best ball just a little bit before we get you out of here. Tell us about some players that you are higher on than most at the current moment.
Yeah, so I think there's an interesting dynamic. So let's talk a little about best ball. First of all, for those who don't know best ball, the idea being you draft a team, usually 18 or 20 rounds, and there's no waivers, there's no free agency, there's no trades, there's no starting and sitting. It's just they take, the computer takes your best performing quarterback, running back, wide receivers, and so forth. So when you're doing your draft, you are drafting for that entire year. And one of the, dynamics that's really come into play is you should be stacking, meaning you should take your quarterback and you should stack them with a pass catcher, a wide receiver, a tight end, because, hey, if your wide receiver scores a touchdown, guess what? Your quarterback probably threw it. And so you're getting those double points. Now, there's an interesting dynamic as more people do that. The teams that people don't want to draft the quarterbacks, those wide receivers, those tight ends start falling. And so I kind of call them like the undraftable, the unstackables. And so guys like Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, or Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku. If you look at like their actual target concentration, the Browns threw more than any other team last year. And hey, guess who was just announced week 1 starter today? Joe Flacco. Like, I'm expecting these to still be pretty concentrated offenses, them still getting a lot of volume, but people don't want to draft him because it's, well, who am I going to stack him with? I don't know who's actually going to be the QB for the whole year in Cleveland. Is it Tyler Shuck or is it Spencer Rattler? I'm not sure. So that's where I think there's been kind of an arbitrage, a miss in the market for those specific guys. And then other than that, let me throw one out. I think the most exciting player right now, and honestly, is probably Anthony Richardson, where we might find out tomorrow that he's not even the week 1 starter, but he's being drafted right now at the very end of drafts. And when he's been healthy, he's a top 6 projected quarterback. In 25% of his games that he started and finished, he finishes a top 4 QB. He has that ability just from a rushing. I think he averages something around 47 rushing yards per game, just under 1 touchdown. That's the type of stuff in best ball where you're not able to kind of replicate that upside at the position so late in drafts. And for redraft, he's one of my favorite guys because, hey, take him. And if he's not starting week 1, if you're having your draft, then just cut him. Yeah. Or if Daniel Jones actually does get the week 1 start, guess what? It probably just means that Anthony Richardson's going to get it later. So keep an eye on things in your redraft league. And as Daniel Jones maybe starts struggling a little, then pick up Anthony Richardson, because when he is starting, he's one of the best values in football.
What about
fantasy, that is?
What about the opposite? Maybe some guys that you would avoid who others are not.
I'd say one player that is kind of going right now at about the 3rd round that I really don't want to touch. Let's go Garrett Wilson. Even though, hey, coming out of Ohio State as a top talent, has looked great in the league thus far, despite having not great quarterbacks. The Jets and bringing in Justin Fields, like, it is not looking good. Even though we can expect Garrett Wilson to have something around like a 28% target share, which, hey, that probably puts him like top 10 in the league. The problem is they're not going to throw that much. You already have the Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, even Isaiah Davis, and Justin Fields, so many rushes. Then you throw in how bad the offensive line has looked both in practices and preseason, and the inaccuracy of Justin Fields, not getting much time back there. I think it's looking pretty ugly. And if you're investing in a 3rd round guy, when you have guys around you like Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison, you need to have a very strong season. And so he's someone that expensive that I'm just not drafting.
Garrett was unhappy with Aaron last year. I guess things could get even uglier this year, even with his good pal. Hey, tell us a little bit about fantasy football in 60 seconds, as well as where we could find you and what else you'll have going on.
Yeah, appreciate that. So I've been in the fantasy space for a decade or so. And this past year in January, I had my first child. And I kind of realized that I just can't live behind the computer scrolling and reading all the information all the time again. And so I was like, you know what? I wish there was something out there that I can wake up in the morning and just get the stuff that matters from the day before direct to my inbox. And there's some newsletters out there, but they're just so long. There's so much fluff. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to solve this problem. So I went out, I built it. And now FF in 60, the idea is you give me 60 seconds each morning, and I'm going to give you the most actionable fantasy football takeaways in your inbox. And hey, people are loving it. I'm loving creating it. It's actually made my time better because now I know each evening I'm going to allocate my time to do this, and the rest of it, not going to waste the time with the things that don't matter.
I like that.
Jordan has a kid, a youngster, and one on the way. I have one on the way. So that's part of the reason jumping into best ball underdog. And it's part of the reason why I'm going to utilize you as well, because I'm not going to have time to go through waivers and to, like you said, scour the internet every Sunday morning. So that is super clutch.
That's sweet. Well, hey, Justin, we really appreciate your time. Keep pumping out the great content, and we'll definitely have to do it again.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Best of luck to the Steelers for you guys, and good luck to everyone listening.
Thanks, man. Hope sometime. I think it's interesting that he talked about Justin Fields a little bit. You know, I was pro Fields returning because of the upside, because of what I saw last year.
Wasn't.
Man, he looks horrible right now. Like 1 of 5.
When I told you his agent should deserve it. Was highway robbery. Like
telling you.
I don't ever root for anyone to fail, but here's the thing: like he's just still so unproven. And
Right.
you know, that blame it on this, blame it on that. But at the end of the day, it's just I just think he's a mediocre quarterback. He's exciting, but I mean, I would have ran it back with Russell Wilson one more time if that was my first take, even before Rodgers. And I'm still sticking by it. I mean, I think Rodgers can give the Steelers the edge, but it doesn't, solve the long-term issue at quarterback. Not that Russ would, but, it's like a revolving door at this point. So it's going to be interesting. But, yeah, I mean, the Jets are the Jets. I feel like you could use that for the Browns or the Browns. The Jets are the Jets. It's just not a good football franchise. I think the last time they were relevant was with Chad Pennington and Curtis Martin.
Well, Mark Sanchez when we
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That as well.
But a lot of dark days for them, and maybe they'll continue, and it's even more relevant because of the Steelers week one. Don't forget about that for sure.
You think the NFL knew what they were doing there?
Probably. There was some inside information maybe going around. As much as Aaron wants to say he kept it under wraps, I think everybody knew that Steelers didn't bring in a quarterback outside of Rudolph, probably for a reason. But man, we want to thank everybody out there for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Appreciate DraftKings as well. Jordan and I will start to bring our bets to the table, and we're going to start to bring some guests to the table when the season arrives, man. I know we're excited about that, and we'll definitely get the ball rolling in a big way. We're about 2 weeks out, and I can't wait for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Just make sure you're following all our socials. We're going to be doing giveaways, hopefully bringing on a few other sponsors with us. So get excited, man. The season is here, but yeah, it's going to be fun tracking. I think that's what, honestly, it's the same thing with fantasy and in the betting realm of things, is that we love the Steelers obviously, but it's nice to throw $10, $20 on a game and give it a little bit of juice, as well as when you play fantasy, you can root for other teams, players, etc. So all good stuff around, and we're excited to embark on another football season, and we'll be announcing kind of what our game plan is here soon in the next few weeks ahead of the season. Really going to have some great guests coming up to break down and give the unbiased opinion instead of kind of just sugarcoating it. So really excited for this season, man.
Yeah,
Jimmy,
let's rock and roll. Thanks, Jimmy.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.